What if I told you that the vast open frontier of the American West was not a land of limitless freedom, but the ultimate testing ground for a man's soul? Beneath the romantic tales of cowboys and gold rushes ran a darker current, a silent protocol executed not by sheriffs or outlaws, but by the women who built homes from dust. This is not the history you learned in school. This is the story of the Desertion Protocol, a ruthless, unconscious set of rules pioneer women used to identify and abandon men who couldn't bear the crushing weight of the wild. Picture the scene: 1852, somewhere on the Oregon Trail. The air is thick with dust and the lowing of exhausted oxen. A family, the Millers, have been traveling for 4 long months. Their wagon, once a proud symbol of a new beginning, is now a splintered, fraying cage on wheels. John Miller, a carpenter from Boston, struggles to fix a broken wheel for the 3rd time that week. His hands, once skilled with fine furniture, are now a bloody, blistered mess under the punishing sun. He's been working for hours, his strength fading, his frustration rising. His wife, Sarah, watches from a distance, not with pity, but with a cold, calculating gaze. She isn't just seeing a broken wheel, she's seeing a broken future. Her eyes run silent calculations written in the language of survival. Every curse he mutters, every desperate, futile strike of the hammer, is another data point confirming a terrifying conclusion. He is a liability. This moment, this quiet reckoning, is the genesis of the Desertion Protocol. It wasn't born from malice, but from necessity. In a world where one mistake could mean death by starvation or attack, a man's competence was not just an asset, it was the only currency that mattered. To understand the sheer pressure these settlers lived under, we must strip away the romance and look at the cold, hard numbers. Historians like John D. Unruh, in The Plains Across, meticulously documented the realities of the trail, of the roughly 250,000 to 300,000 people who embarked on the Oregon and California trails. An estimated 20,000 to 30,000 died along the way, nearly a 10% mortality rate. But here's the crucial, often overlooked truth. For every one person who died from an Indian attack, a fear inflated by legend, 9 died from accidents, disease, or exposure. A broken axle could mean death, a missed water source, dysentery, a failed hunt, starvation. Failure was fatal. A broken axle could strand a family and lead to cholera. A missed water source meant dysentery. A man who couldn't hunt meant starvation. His failure wasn't just his own death sentence, it doomed everyone who relied on him. This was the brutal arithmetic of survival in the American wilderness. This is the context, the crucible. Female choice in this world wasn't about luxury or desire. It wasn't about marrying up. It was about identifying the man who could ensure her children didn't become another grave marker on the prairie. It was cold logic, Darwinian survival written in dust. The protocol had patterns, clear, repeatable triggers. The first was what we might call the failure of practical competence. To see it in motion, we must revisit one of history's most misunderstood tragedies, the Donner Party. A story you think you know, but whose deeper lesson has been ignored. Before the snow trapped them, poor judgment had already sealed their fate. They took an untested shortcut, the Hastings cutoff, following the word of a charismatic but unreliable man. It was a catastrophic failure of male leadership, a fatal decision that turned courage into catastrophe. Within the group, smaller dramas played out. James Reed, once a strong leader, was banished after killing another man. His family, his wife Margaret and their children, were suddenly adrift, dependent on others' competence for survival. One man's collapse rippled through an entire family. The men who remained, like Louis Keseberg, soon fell to injury, illness, or despair. But the women, Margaret Reed, Tamsin Donner, endured. Their resilience became legend. In diaries, they wrote not of surrender, but of strategy, of adapting. They were quietly executing the desertion protocol. They shifted their loyalty from the failing men to the survival of their children. It wasn't betrayal, it was biology. The West didn't forgive weakness, and emotional loyalty had no place in starvation. They did what evolution demanded: cut ties to the broken and preserved what could endure. The second trigger was psychological collapse. The West didn't just break bodies, it shattered minds. On a Dakota homestead in the 1880s, a man named Elijah watched a blizzard erase his dreams. His herd was gone, his hope vanished. Days passed as he sat motionless, staring at the walls of his hut. His wife Catherine pleaded for help. None came. Resentment replaced love, then clarity. One morning, she took the last of their food, bundled her children, and walked 10 miles through snow to the nearest town. She hadn't deserted him. He had already deserted her when his spirit died. Out there, a broken spirit was as deadly as a broken wagon wheel. This wasn't rare. It had a name: prairie madness. Men's minds snapped under isolation and failure. But women, anchored by their instinct to protect their children, endured. Biology had forged their minds for survival. In those moments, female endurance wasn't romantic. It was mechanical, like the prairie wind itself, relentless and impersonal. While men wrestled with ego and despair, women adapted, recalibrated, endured. This was the silent machinery of human continuity: instinct over emotion, function over failure. From these stories, the desertion protocol begins to reveal itself, not as cruelty, but as calibration. When the man falters beyond repair, her system initiates withdrawal. Affection shuts down, attention reorients, and her focus narrows to what must survive: the children, the future, the continuation of lineage. Even today, this protocol remains buried beneath modern illusions. It hides behind polite smiles and breakup texts. But biologically, it is ancient code. When a man loses drive, confidence, or direction, she feels it like a shift in the weather. A quiet instinct whispers, "Winter is coming." Society calls it losing attraction. Psychology calls it emotional detachment. But nature calls it triage.